Welcome to my awesome Friday evening. You're listening to me, Heidi Hollis, the Outlander. So welcome to the show. Get comfortable. Put your feet up. Take it all in. It feels almost like spring here in Chicago, but we're starting to get licks of winter once again. Oh, my goodness. Well, I have to tell you guys what this show is about. It's about bringing outlandish and interesting topics to the forefront, from aliens, angels, ghosts, demons, holy encounters, shadow people, to Bigfoot, to the outlandish. I always say if it's weird, we're here, and now you are too. So it's all good. I feel comfortable. If you do not know who I am, when it comes to the outlandish from whatever, personally, I'm someone who has been there, seen that, experienced it, freaked out, found some answers, wrote about it, got over it, and now I'm hoping to help others do the same darn thing and understand this kooky, crazy world of ours. To learn more about me, go to my main website, which is HeidiHollis.com. Just sound it out. And I'd also like to invite you to check out my paranormal comic strip called, what? The OutlandersComic.com. You can find that here on Inception Radio. And I think it's funny. I enjoy it anyways. And now, you guys already know I co-host on the Kevin Cook Show, right? But I also do UFO Headline News. So UFOHeadlineNews.com. There's a lot of .com going on. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm never bored. Never, no. I'm always having fun with this stuff. And you know what's fantastic about this network? There are so many ways to listen to it. We're trying to cram it down your throats. I don't know if you noticed, but the most popular, I think, is the Inception Radio Network app, which is IRN app, where you can just listen at any time, anything you want. And you could also just call a number. My parents like doing this way because they don't have to futz with anything as far as technology is concerned. You could landline it the whole way, 712-770-8888. And I also welcome you guys to call into the show. You could just dial at any time. I'm not afraid of you guys, but I know most of you do not listen to the show live, so a lot of people don't call during the live broadcast. That's okay, but it's 1-888-919-2355. You can always go on Skype and find Inception Radio Network, and MJ is sitting there just like waiting for your comments and questions. And if you go to the chat room, which is a live chat, I'll be over there in a minute, irnchat.com. You can post your questions all in caps so I can see it more easily, and I'll do my best to address that to myself, whatever it is you're mentioning, or to the guest, because that's just the way we roll. Isn't that cool? So guess what? You guys have demanded it, and I'm going to fulfill what you've been demanding. The Outlandish Corner. I'm going to do it today. We're going to have the first 30 minutes where I'm answering all your comments and questions and emails from all over the globe. And again, during this, I welcome phone calls while I'm doing these emails. So otherwise, I just go through the stream of emails, and it is a ton. Let me tell you. You know what? I'm going to pop over to the chat room because I really should. So I could see the looks on people's faces. No, they're not seeing faces on there. I'm just kidding. Because there is somebody from this chat room who wrote an email tonight, and that's the first one I'm going to get to. Oh, boy, it's lively. I needed a swig. Okay, here we go. Holy smokes, there's a lot of stuff popping up. A lot of people. Okay, so anyways, let's get to these lovely emails. This first email says, hello, Heidi. Below are my encounters with that creep called the Hat Man. Do you guys know who they're speaking of? I think I know. After reading your book, it brought back those encounters I have made a point to forget. There are 4 encounters, the third being this past November during an investigation. My Hat Man encounters, encounter number 1. Okay, here we go. Throughout all of my encounters growing up, there have been several that have had me wondering, what the heck did I just see, and was it real? Oh, and why me? Here are my 3 encounters with this entity called Hat Man. My first encounter was in the summer of '94. I was in my teens then. I was home alone on a Saturday night, watching television in the living room, when all at once I heard footsteps upstairs. It was at this point I thought that someone had broken into the house. I got up and muted the TV and quietly made my way out of the living room and grabbed a baseball bat and slowly made my way up the stairs. I was scared because I thought to myself, what do I do when I confront this person? I got a very bad feeling as I checked all 3 bedrooms upstairs, only to find no one was there. I checked everywhere. When I realized no one was there, I started to relax until I turned to leave the upstairs bedrooms, and standing there, blocking my path, was the Hat Man. Oh, heck no, that's terrifying. I was frozen in fear. I could not move or speak. He was 7 feet tall and wore a fedora hat with a jacket, with coattails and boots. His eyes were red and no other features were present, and he never spoke a word to me. Still, I was terrified, to say the least. He just stared at me for what seemed like forever, until he finally turned and walked through the door. I followed, but he was gone before I came to the top of the stairs. I looked everywhere, and not a trace of him. Little did I know I would have 2 more encounters with him, and that death would soon follow. Throughout all of my encounters growing up, there have been several that have had me wondering, it's repeating. How did I get a repeat? Okay, here we go. Second encounter with this creep was in the same year during the winter. It was in November. This time, I was woken up by something in my room. It was between 2 and 3 a.m. I was unable to move my body, and I was unable to speak. He was there at the foot of my bed, fedora hat, boots, and all. He stood there glaring at me with red eyes, never said a word to me, and at some point, after what seemed like forever, he just disappeared, and I was able to move. I jumped up and flipped on the light in my room, and I was alone. Needless to say, I did not sleep that night, and I kept it to myself. About a week later, my grandfather, who was bedridden and very ill, passed away. I was heartbroken, and at the same time, I did not make the connection until my 3rd and final encounter with him. This 3rd and final encounter with this creep was in August of '96. This time, he made an appearance several days before my grandmother passed away. Gosh, that sucks. I was home, though not alone, and saw Hi in my bedroom yet again. Okay, no words were uttered. He just stood there, staring at me. Red eyes and all, complete with fedora, jacket, and boots. This time he tipped his hat. What is with his tipping of the hat? I don't get it, but he does this. And I watched him walk through my bedroom door. I was unable to sleep and kept lights on in my room all night. One night I was asked by my mother to bring over dinner she had made for my grandmother that evening. I made my way over and saw her bathroom door open. And after I greeted her, I heard nothing. No reply. My heart sank. I was hit with a really bad feeling and forced myself to run over to the bathroom. I found her unresponsive on the floor between the toilet and bathtub. Oh my goodness. I was hysterical and called my mother to tell her that I found Grandma passed out and unresponsive. While I waited for her and Dad to get there, I tried to calm myself down. The ambulance took her to the hospital. En route, they brought her back, but she died before they made it there. Soon after, I started to connect the dots with both deaths and the Hat Man. It all clicked. These encounters were a warning of what was to come. I thankfully have had no more encounters with this creep, and I pray that I never have another one again. Something I wish on no one, because as far as I'm concerned, it was evil that decided to rear its ugly head 3 times in my life. These are my encounters, raw and unedited. It still gives me chills thinking about it and brings back some of the most scariest things in my life to have happened to me. Oh, Hat Man encounter number 4 took place this past November at an out-of-town investigation. The location I cannot say out of respect for the privacy of the family involved. I will call them the Smith family. We got there early in the evening when it had just gotten dark. There were 6 of us total to do the overnight investigation. As we were unloading, one of the investigators called my name. I walked over and asked, "What's up?" As this member is also psychic, he pointed to an upstairs window and said, "Do you see him?" I looked up, and standing there was the Hat Man wearing the wide-brimmed hat and what clearly looked like a duster. And he had red eyes. We both felt pure evil from him. Ooh. When we were interviewing the clients, the husband said he saw the same thing we did around the property outside. He had been out there to head to his truck when he got a really bad feeling. He looked up and saw the hat man with red eyes. Same hat, a duster, and boots. Creeped him out so bad he ran in the house and locked the door. All night long, we saw him in the house and outside of it. Wherever we were, he was. He switched hats, too. Get out of Dodge. 3 of us saw him the whole time, and one of those 3 was the wife. The next day, we did a house blessing, and he was gone. Got home, and 2 nights later, I got scratched. Oh, no. Felt something behind me, then the burning started. I turned to see a figure with a hat going down the hallway and was gone just like that. Oh, that bastard. Oh. To date, I have seen him 2 more times since, and it chills me to the bone, knowing that via my history with this creep, this will not be my last time, nor my last encounter with him. Oh, no. Jennifer. Oh, Jenny. Oh, that sucks. It makes me wonder. I mean, he left that house and came at you. You know, there is such a contagion factor to the Hat Man and the Shadow People phenomenon. That is no lie. You know what's really weird, though, Jenny, with what you mentioned here? Him changing hats. I have never known him to swap hats in the middle of his messing with people. You know, like, I'm going to walk down the hall. Need a different hat. I look out the window. I need the fedora. You know, that's weird. I have not heard of that. This is the first. So how about that? That's pretty crazy. And, I have to say also, something scared him up again in your life. It looks like it has to do with, this house that you went to go and investigate. So whatever it is that you did to get rid of that thing out of that house, you need to do it again to get rid of it in your house. But I don't like that he's scratched you. You know how that is, especially if there's the 3 scratches that mocks the Trinity, as they say. And it's like their way of entering you. I don't know what it is, but it just seems after the scratches hit, things just take a turn for the worse. So I know that you've got good friends and a good hubby, because I know this lady, that can help you out in, protecting yourself and helping you clear this guy out of your life. You've been pretty darn successful with everything else as far as the paranormal is concerned, so I'm sure you will find the way to bless your home and toss him out on his hat. And you know what? Take his hat. Throw his hat out. Make him go search for a new one. I mean, screw this guy. God, I can't stand the Hat Man. Hat Man sucks. He's really a horrible thing. Piece of crap. Anyways, moving on to the, Jennifer, thank you so much for writing. You had told me that your email was there, and I apologize. It took me a while to get through. I got a lot of emails. That was pretty crazy. All right, moving on to the next email. All right, this person says, Dear Heidi, there are many things that change us and form or destroy us. This has destroyed a great deal of my life. Oh, no. I grew up in North Lake, Illinois, just south of O'Hare, about 2 miles. Oh, I'm not far from there. The time frame is about 1983 or 1984, and I was 15 or 16. I had been playing softball on Hayes Drive with my brothers and some friends until approximately 7:30 or 8:30 p.m. I had a feeling like my neighbors were watching, but I saw nobody, and it wouldn't matter as we were fairly quiet. The game ended, and we walked into our home. Our home was a 2-story, and I was on the 2nd floor. I had been having trouble sleeping and felt like people were outside my window in the yard. I would look and find nobody down there, just our old pool deck and not much else. Occasionally, the neighborhood dogs, along with mine, would bark for no reason that I could discern. Mine were in the house. A little background on me. I'm male, firstborn, and have Rh negative blood. I am the only Rh negative in my family. Ooh, wow, that's different. I am not adopted. Okay. Oh, hold on to this next part. And my mother did not cheat on my father. Okay, all right. I wasn't going there. I would have dreams as a child only to have them happen in the next day or so exactly as I previously saw it. It was an outcast. Oh, I was an outcast for the most part, and I had few friends. I had an odd way with animals and have had feral cats that didn't like anyone just come up to me, and we are as if we are long lost buddies. Is this Kevin writing me? Just kidding. That's Kevin Cook. Anyways, possums, squirrels, feral cats, and birds that are injured seem to find their way to me, and yes, I give them help. Back to that sleeping issue. I kept having issues of waking up suddenly feeling that I fell in my bed or on my bed. I doubted it, and I figured that one of those really loud O'Hare jet planes had startled me. I thought that until the evening that my bed came apart after the feeling of falling and hitting it. Oh, you're kidding me. The evening of that softball game, I went to bed, but had an intense fear that something was wrong. I went to sleep, but I felt cool air like a soft breeze blowing. I saw the tops of the trees and something else. I could look every direction and realize that I was in the air. Huh? I looked up at what appeared to me to be like 4 wheels, like of a Ferris wheel, and the lights that are on the outer edge of it. 3 were in a triangle shape, 1 top, 1 lower right, and 1 left. The 4th was edge on to me. I don't understand. And directly in the middle, all appeared in the same shape. Something in my head was telling me to look, and I looked down and saw myself and others playing earlier, but it felt odd because it felt as if something false was, only words that I can use, projected into my head in absolute detail. And I felt it happening like a pressure and a light in my brain. I felt a cool breeze, and I am positive that I was awake. Those wheels or rings were spinning, but they never lost the perfect symmetry from one another. The distance remained perfect, as if they were attached, but I saw no point of connection. The thoughts I felt were not mine. I could not comprehend the message it said to understand. I remember falling and then blackness. I hit that bed hard enough that I cracked the wood on its oak frame. I have not forgotten that object, nor the feelings and some memories that seem to be a fog that causes headaches if I try to remember too hard. I don't do well with people, but those wild animals still seem to like me. My neighbors call me St. Francis when they see the animals by me. I do believe that it is something else. I just don't know what. Thank you. Please don't use my name. I'm disclosing it. Okay. For your records only. Okay. Got it. All right. Wow. I have heard a lot of people that have had alien encounters and whatnot, and when they try to remember what has taken place, they get extreme pain, like in a certain part of their head or whatever it is, and they can feel faint, and then they don't want to look any further, and they just kind of give up. And you're like having this dream of looking down at if I'm following this right, sorry, it was a little bit sketchy to try to capture what was going on. So you're having these real dreams of being up in the air and seeing like these spinning circles that seem like they were connected but not, and then feeling like you're being dropped. It makes me wonder if you were, because you broke your bed, for crying out loud, makes me wonder if you were actually, people have these abductions and they are pulled through the wall. So I wonder if you indeed were pulled up and dropped back through. I don't know how they disassemble people to be able to make use of those spaces between the atoms in our bodies, but somehow these things are interdimensional and are able to yank us in such a way and drop us. I have personally had such a thing where I have had, I thought were out-of-body experiences, but boom, back onto the bed, and it's a big drop, like, ow, that hurt. I didn't see aliens or UFOs or anything like that, but I can imagine that, something like this really changes a person's perspective on the world when it just doesn't fit with anything. It just absolutely doesn't fit. So how do you turn to anyone and decipher what is going on? So I get it. I understand. And it's a shame, a lot of people have these types of experiences and they're like, it destroyed my life. I am so worried about it because something crazy happened to me. I just can't put my finger on it. Can you help me figure it out? Sometimes it's best to leave things alone, because I have seen people who have retrieved the memories that they were dying to know about, only to regret it, because the things that they recalled, the things that they remembered, just disturbing, highly disturbing. It does sound alien to me, interdimensional, perhaps. But I think those are related anyhow. What they were doing to you is a mystery. It doesn't sound like it's something that has continued to happen in your life. You're very fortunate for that, because let me tell you, it is no picnic for the people that I have met and known that have gone through this. So what it was, it sounds very alien. So I don't know if it's something you want to dig further into, but do your best not to allow it to take control of your life. Because too many people, they just don't live their lives fully because they're so stressed about something they experience and they don't have answers to. And you ever meet somebody that you just can't resolve problems with? It's kind of like that, where you just gotta let it go and sing the Frozen song, honestly. All right, I'm going to try to squeeze in on the last one here. Let me see if I can find what it's... Oh, my gosh, these are big ones. All right, so this is the smallest one I could find, because we only got a few minutes. Yes, okay, we do. All right, this person is saying, I wanted to share... Oh, hi, Heidi. I wanted to share my story of the shadows with you. I'm now 30 years old, and I'm lucky not to have seen the little shadow crawlers or the shadowy man with a hat in a long time. Oh, but you have. Since I moved from my old home from West Islip, New York, okay, my house was on the outskirts of an Indian burial ground, which is why Route 231 almost wasn't built where it was. One night, I let out the dogs and went back inside. I heard a yelp and then furious barking. My one jumped up on the screen door just as I opened the inner door. It scared me half to death. I opened the screen, and my one dog flew inside and ran down the hall to then start barking in my room. I was maybe 15 at the time. My other dog wouldn't come in. I felt weird, feeling like I was being watched, and walked out on the deck in my nightgown. That's when I saw the man in the hat. I thought he was a cowboy or something like that. Long coat, and I couldn't see his eyes. My dogs kept barking, and I can remember thinking to myself that they might wake the neighbors. My parents were not home. I walked further and came to the steps to go to the yard and yelled for my dog to come in. Finally, he began to come to the house, but stopped when the shadow man leaned on my little 3-foot chain fence that surrounded the back of my yard. The dog instead started going crazy and howling. The dog outside yelped and ran up the stairs. I remember backing up across the deck, calling my dog to follow, and when I got him in, all the howling from inside stopped. I looked out the window but didn't see the man anymore. Besides my dreams, which I don't know if that was one or not, I haven't seen the shadow man with the hat again. The shadow crawlers, however, I have seen since. But they don't frighten me like they used to. As long as I don't see the hat man again, I will be fine. Trust me, I understand. That guy sucks. You guys notice this pattern? People get that feeling of being watched. They worry. I mean, the previous email, the guy was just like, I was scared to go to bed. I mean, it's just, we have that instinct to know when we're being hunted. It's a natural instinct that we're born with, to run, to prepare, to get out of the way of whatever is coming our way. That is always so surprising and so amazing to me, how often I get letters like that, and how they figure out that they're on somebody's menu. And I say menu because this guy likes to devour souls. Just plain and simple, because that's just what he does. But check this out. Okay, so shadow people, they suck, okay? Hatman sucks a whole lot more. This person's like, look, I can handle shadow crawlers. Not sure what those are. I'm sure they're probably like the shadow spiders. They kind of look like octopus or something, crawling around, messing with people. Not cool. But Hatman takes the cake on all that is evil. You see him once and you dread ever the thought of seeing him again. So I'm glad that you haven't had that. But yeah, he comes in nightmares. He tries to weaken you to try to get into you and get access to you once again. So keep your guard up, keep your prayers up, and keep on fighting. I want to tell you guys, thank you so much for writing me, and I want to welcome anyone to write me who has any experiences or comments that they'd like to share and to get some level-headed advice to dusoutlander@gmail.com, and I will do my best. I do tend to get to everybody's emails eventually. It takes some time, but it's a process. So once again, thank you for that. You guys, you are listening to me, Heidi Hollis, the Outlander, and we will be right back with our guest. Outlander, remembering always if it's weird, we're here. We're giving you advice and insight on outlandish topics. Phone lines are always open, but I know most of you guys listen to this show after the fact of it being a live broadcast. But that number, 1-888-919-2355. And I'm going to officially now introduce the guest for tonight is L. Sydney Fisher, who is a #1 Amazon best-selling author of several books. Her desire for knowledge launched a curiosity into the world of the supernatural and unexplained that has spanned a lifetime. Sydney lives on a haunted landscape with the spirit of a white wolf and at least one ghost that shares what was once a Native American village in northeast Mississippi. You can find her on the web at lsydneyfisher.com. Everybody, round of applause for L. Sydney Fisher. Hey, Sydney, how are you?
Hey there. Hey there, Heidi.
How's life?
Life is spooky, always.
I love it. Hey, you're cracking me up during the break. I did not realize the extreme weather changes that go on where you live. That Absolutely. Is nuts. You got to share that real quick. What did you tell your friend to bring to wear?
Listen, if that is not paranormal, I don't know what is. So I live in northeast Mississippi, and I have a friend from Minnesota, and so she was going to be traveling to the deep south. And she sent me an email and she says, so what type of clothing should I bring? And I thought, oh my gosh, seriously? And so I emailed her back and I said, you should probably pack a snowsuit and a bikini.
And what was the weather? What's this shift? I mean, that is crazy what you have to deal with.
So this is the truth. This is the truth. This morning I went outside. And it was about 70 degrees. I mean, it could have been 65. I may be stretching it, but it was icky. Mm-hmm. And then, by later on this afternoon, went back out and I was just freezing. And so it was dropped to about 30 degrees. And so we're all bundled up. And I mean, just within just a few hours, oh yeah. And that happens in the South. That's why it's just, the weather here is like a schizophrenic. It is just.
You should give it a name like Francine or something. I don't know.
You absolutely have to be. If that is not paranormal and you're living in the South, but that is the truth. So you have to have, a closet full of summer clothes that you will wear them sometimes in January. You will have on. Last week, I had on flip-flops and shorts because it just got too hot. I was running my air conditioner in my house a few hours ago, like yesterday. Last night, I had my air on for a little while because it was a little stuffy. Mm-hmm. Tonight, I have my heater going.
Good Lord. I mean, it needs a name. Frank.
It needs a name.
Fran, Damien. Damien something. I don't know. So let's get on down into, gosh, you've got an interesting background. I found you. I was like, hold on, this lady's different. So you write fictional supernatural stuff and you delve into true supernatural stuff.
Yes.
So how on earth, I mean,
so how does that work?
Yeah, how does that work for you? How did you get into this?
So this is how this works as far as my books are concerned. All of my books, and you can find a listing of those, of course, on Amazon at under L. Sydney Fisher or lsydneyfisher.com. But all of those books that I write are inspired by true events or true stories. some of the names, I mean, I have changed to protect, the people that are still living. Occasionally, I will have to, and I always have a disclosure there in the front of the books, depending on what particular project it is. And I will say, that some of the scenes or whatever in the story may have been dramatized for the sake of storytelling. The book, though, the very first debut book, which was The Haunting of Natalie Bradford, that book is almost 90% word for word as that happened.
Wow.
That is, it is very authentic to exactly the way that occurred. It's a very intriguing story, always has been to me. And then, of course, but now I will tell you, I don't just write about ghosts, even though I love that and I gravitate toward that probably more than anything else is, in the supernatural realm. But, all my life I have studied psychic phenomena. There is a military operation that went on even started in 1975 actually, but it ended in the 1990s, 1995 under the Clinton administration, and that was the Stargate program. And the book that my character Seth Phoenix, the book series that I wrote about Seth Phoenix in that series is the Phoenix series. The very first one was the Phoenix Mission, but a lot of that material, that is a fictional.
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive #1, #2 employee. Leave a message at the... Hey, Jamie, it's me, Jamie. This is your daily pep talk. I know it's been rough going ever since people found out about your a cappella group, Mad Harmony, but you will bounce back. I mean, you're the guy always helping people find coverage options with the Name Your Price tool. It should be you giving me the pep talk. Now get out there, hit that high note, and take Mad Harmony all the way to nationals this year! Sorry, the pitchy.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Character, it is a fictional story, but so much of every scene in that book, the way I set up the remote viewing labs, some of the information that you get, some of the characters, there were real life conversations, real life things, real life scenes that were taking place during that time. So even though you're sitting here and you're reading and it's one of my favorites. In fact, it's so funny. You know that you're doing fun stuff when you pull your own book off your bookshelf and say, I really enjoyed that. I think I'm going to read that. And I'm going, did I write this?
I do the same sometimes. Every once in a while I'll flick through it and I'm like, oh, this isn't so bad.
Is that not hilarious? I pulled my own project off the bookshelf the other day, and I went, I think I've got to read the Phoenix series again because that was just so freaking cool. But it was the most difficult for me to write. But I researched it for about 2 to 3 years, and the Phoenix Mission's the first book. The Phoenix Codes is the second. Added a little bit of additional research and stuff when I could, put the two together in the Phoenix series, the complete book that you can get. But I still will go back to that project sometimes, and I'm just thinking, wow, our military was involved in this type of research, and many people believe they still are.
Oh, of course.
Oh, absolutely.
Anything that works, they're not giving it up. They'll officially close it, but they don't give it up. Come on, if that thing was working, so why just do fiction then? Why didn't you do some true?
Well, as far as when you do true, as far as that particular project, it was when I did that and when I created Seth Phoenix. It was easier for me to control how I wanted this to go. It was fun for me as well, Heidi, because it became a project that it's tiring. You think about the hours and the months and the things that I've spent researching something, and even the years because of the background that I already had in my knowledge of remote viewing and clairvoyance and those abilities. And so when I got into setting this story up, and I thought, I really want to highlight the way that this stuff works. And the best way to do that is to make something entertaining, an entertaining read for them, but where they actually can feel like that they are, they're there. Mm-hmm. And so it just became, I'll still, like I said, I'll still pull this project out. I have the book. I'm looking at it right now, sitting near my desk. And I'm thinking, that is so funny. I'm going, let me go get that book. But there's another book that I wrote that is, this is called creative nonfiction. And what this means is, for folks that don't really know exactly what is creative nonfiction, it means that the book has all the elements of a fiction piece. In other words, it's the plot and it's the theme and it's the way it's set up. But it is based on a true story. But it allows the writer to be able to be creative, and it allows you a little bit of ability to, for the sake of storytelling, as they say. My book, See No Evil, is based on a 20th century clairvoyant. He was called the Mississippi Mystic. Have you ever heard of Edgar Cayce, the Sleeping Prophet? Of
course, yes.
Okay. Edgar Cayce, if you get that book, See No Evil, you'll see where I did some research on the two of those men, and it just absolutely will blow you away when you realize how many synchronicities, how many parallels that the two of them had in their lives. And there is a part in that book where I actually say, a part of me kind of believes that those two men were either maybe should have crossed paths at some time in their life, or maybe they heard of each other, because they both were doing, Cayce was from Kentucky. Seymour Prater was from Mississippi, even though he spent time out in Texas as a detective. But the two of them were living in an Alabama town just 70 miles apart. And they were renowned across the Southeast for their abilities. So it just makes me wonder if they ever knew of each other. And Seymour Prater was as gifted, although he was a clairvoyant and he could actually see, find lost people, find lost objects, help find missing children. He is a phenomenal study.
I'd really never heard of this person. That is amazing.
That is exactly right. Nobody, and this is how this happened. I actually had just finished up The Haunting of Natalie Bradford, and that case I've known about it forever. So I had finished that up and was on a book tour, and was actually at a library close by here in North Mississippi. And after that, my presentation, the librarian followed me out the door, and she says, Sydney, there's something that I'd like to tell you about. Maybe you might want to look into this story about this man that I know from Pontotoc, Mississippi, who was this. And so I said, well, yeah, that sounds interesting. Well, I'm really busy for a while, but maybe I'll get to come back. Fast forward a couple of years, actually, and I had gotten myself through with some other book projects, and I could not get this off of my mind. And don't know why, but it was so strange. It was like something, the divine talks to you, and kept giving me a nudge. You need to call that librarian back. You need to call her back. And the voice got so loud to where I finally called her. And I said, can I come over, and will you go and pull those files that you were telling me about, the newspaper clippings or whatever, and I'll take a look at it. So I get over there thinking, it's just going to be, a few pieces or whatever. It's not going to be much, and because I'm very picky about what I look for in a book project, and if it actually is something that I feel like needs to be between the pages of a book, needs to be told. So I sat down, and oh my gosh, she brings something out that's probably 7-8 inches thick.
Whoa, come on now.
Couldn't believe it. Of all these that had been kept from forever. And I said, oh my goodness. So I sat down with it, and I told her, I said, I didn't realize. So I sat down with it, and I knew what I was looking for. I started flipping through, and I'm going, that's great. This is interesting. But I knew I needed something that just stood out about this man, something phenomenal. I was looking for one particular thing. I wanted to know if he had blue eyes. But there was a problem. The only way to find out if this man had blue eyes, because he died on his birthday in 1945. And the pictures of him were black and white.
Oh, I see.
But when I was flipping through some of the true accounts and some of his family members that were telling things, and I flipped and flipped, I found where his daughter, within 5 minutes, I flipped and found where his daughter, and it stood out on the page. It stood out that she said, Papa could always tell when I was lying because he would look at me with those blue eyes.
Ah, wow.
So now you're wondering what it is about the blue eyes.
Yes,
aren't you?
Of course.
Okay, so you've studied the Stargate program.
A bit. Not a ton, but yeah, it's interesting.
But you're familiar with it.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
You're familiar with the fact that there were 4 or 5 remote viewers that were, specific, or those are the ones that we know of anyway, that they were
really good.
Yeah. Right, and that they were willing to tell us their names, in other words.
Yes.
Well, here is some research that I did on people who seem to have special clairvoyant abilities, or mediums and psychics and things like this. When I was doing some research into this during the Phoenix Project, I found that there seems to be a parallel between people having blue eyes. Also, people who have psychic abilities, sometimes, it is hereditary. We know that.
Yes.
Usually passed down. Sometimes it skips a generation. Sometimes it's just there. You're just lucky, and it just keeps getting passed.
Right.
The other thing that has been found that's interesting is that a lot of people are ambidextrous. They're using both sides of their brain. But people who are especially gifted, when you do a CAT scan or an MRI on the brain, they found that it looks like a rope, but it connects, called the longitudinal fissure, and it connects the 2 hemispheres of the brain, the right and the left. But in people who are extremely gifted, theirs tends to be enlarged.
Wow.
So I found this very interesting. And Seymour Prater, as the Mississippi Mystic, as I started to research him, family members started coming forward when they found out through the grapevine that I was doing all this research on him. And I started learning all types of things about this man's past. And it was just like, yep, he was absolutely pegged, to have this extraordinary gift. His story, his story was too, there's no such thing as coincidence. I mean, he was absolutely who he was for a purpose. But when I got to doing the rest of the research on the blue eyes, here's what I found. And I have these pictures here. You can't see me, but I am looking at them. And this is something that I do when I go and I do presentations and talk and stuff. I do sometimes talk about the Phoenix series and tell people. Remember Joseph Magnon Eagle. I don't know if I just butchered his last name, but
okay.
he was remote viewer 001. He had blue eyes. The other Lynn Buchanan, blue eyes. The only one that I was not able, Ingo, I believe his name is Swan. That's right, blue eyes. The only one I wasn't able to determine or whatever, to find out for sure, was David Morehouse. Could not verify him.
Okay.
I could not verify him, but the others I was able to. Some other people that I found in my research who claim to have those specific type of gifts, one of them is the medium. Now, Edgar Casey had blue eyes. So did Seymour Prater. Yep, Edgar Casey had blue eyes. David Wilcox, the author of the Synchronicity books, and I've read them. They're absolutely awesome, his books on synchronicity. He's got one in particular that I really, really like. But he also is a gifted medium, I believe, and he has blue eyes. James Van Prague, blue eyes. But here's the one that really stood out. Do you remember, which I'm older than you, but back in the day, 20 years ago probably, there was a lady that every Sunday we could pick up the paper. Well, it was every day. But I remember on Sunday specifically, it'd give your horoscope for the week. She was a very renowned astrologer during the 20th century. And
this isn't Nancy Reagan's lady, is it?
probably so.
Huh.
But she actually, she had a dream one night, and the next morning she got up and she phoned the White House. And she begged John F. Kennedy not to go to Dallas.
Come on.
Nope, swear, promise.
Wow.
Google it. This lady's name was Jean Dixon. And if you look
I've heard of her. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. If you look her up on the internet, you will find her. She is an attractive, red-headed, blue-eyed lady. So, I kept seeing all these parallels, and then I found some other research on a book called The Children of Now, and it's talking about the alien connection. And I heard you talking about some UFO stuff. Yeah. They're called star children, and those children tend to have light-colored eyes as well. So that was it's really fascinating. Now, does that mean that a brown-eyed person doesn't have psychic abilities? Well, no. But it's interesting enough, and it happens enough that it's something to study. It's something to take into account.
That's interesting to pull those parallels together. And it's like, you wonder, is there something that ties that in somehow?
It's really interesting. Blue eyes it's a recessive gene from, anyway, supposedly it's a recessive gene. So very interesting.
My sister thinks she's special because she's got green eyes. We don't think she is.
Well, now green eyes, is only 2% of the population. So anyhow.
Yeah, I told her we should just corner them all and they could all live together then, since they're so rare. Yeah, she's one of those. But anyways, I find it, it's you. I could hear the passion in your voice for this stuff. Like, this is just in you. I mean, did something happen to you when you were younger that just said, I really want to learn more about this? What sparked your interest?
It is so funny, and I actually have been thinking the same thing. I've been thinking about this lately. I've always told people, when they've asked me, what got you interested in the paranormal, or I tell people all the time, we are not born believing in the paranormal. As a child, you don't just decide, I believe in ghosts. It's always from some sort of experience. Our life experiences shape us into the adults that we are. From the time I was around 8 years old, that's when I had my very first experience at Lindenwood. Lindenwood was the mansion that I wrote about in the book, The Haunting of Natalie Bradford. I knew the Bradfords and spent time there. And that's where it first happened for me. Now, once that door is opened, so to speak, you just, it changes you. It is a transformative experience, regardless of how old you are at the time that it happens. And it becomes a curiosity, or it did for me personally. And so, my summers were spent while the other kids might be at the library, checking out books, Amelia Bedelia books or whatever. I'm over there in the New Age section, looking at psychic phenomena books, ghost tales, even some witchcraft type stuff. I just absolutely was drawn to this for some reason. To me, it was magical, and it was mysterious, and I grew up on Agatha Christie. I loved her books. Of course, they were mysteries. But even lately, I have been considering. I've always been one of these people, even though people think this is strange. I know if you believe in the paranormal and the afterlife and all this, how can you be on the fence about reincarnation? But I've always been on the fence about reincarnation.
Really? Oh, that's interesting.
I've always been on I've always kind of been on the fence about it, because I'm thinking, so what is I'm trying to logically reconcile this in my mind.
Wow.
Now, what is the point of me coming back into another body, and I can't remember anything before?
It's to test you, to see if the insides of you are truly as good as they're supposed to be, without recalling the punishment that's coming in the afterlife.
Oh my God! And I'm thinking when I've been told that, how cruel.
Yeah. We got to go to our next break. You guys are listening to me, Heidi, Hollis, the Outlander, and we will be right back. Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to me, Heidi Hollis, the Outlander, and we are speaking with Sydney Fisher. And how do you spell out your website so people will know how to get a hold of your books and to learn more about you?
You can find my books at Sydney Fisher. That's an L and then the SYDNEY, and then Fisher, FISHER.com.
Awesome. And you're talking about reincarnation just before I went to break, and I have to say, I remember there being something in the Bible that Jesus no, it was Peter or somebody. I'm so terrible, but it said that you didn't recognize me. I was John the Baptist or something. God, somebody's going to help me out in this one somewhere. But
Right.
you didn't recognize me. I was John the Baptist, and I'm now so and so or something. Like, there's mentionings in the Bible about reincarnation.
Yeah, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
John the Baptist was referring, and he was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, referring to himself as Elijah.
Okay, yes, that was it. Yeah. See, reincarnation. See, I knew somebody would help me out.
I know it, and that's so funny. But I'm telling you, all these years I've been on the fence. But now let me tell you where I am. I'm getting to the point now to where it's something. I had this defining moment the other day.
Okay.
And I was going, why have I always felt a connection to the Victorian era? Now, I realize all of you are saying, well, duh, that's because it was the age of spiritualism. Okay, besides that, even as a kid, I used to always say, I swear I was that lady that had those beautiful dresses on, and I had this big hat, and I was so frou-frou-ish and all that. And I just saw myself back then. And for years and years, I have felt like that I was waiting on something, that I am supposed to reconnect with someone. And so in my mind, I've created this story. It has to be my soulmate, that's supposed to be a funny, because I haven't met him. And so somehow something happened and he got lost along the way. But in the meantime, though, in all seriousness, the Victorian era was the age of spiritualism. And I thought, you know what? For all my life, I have felt like that I crossed over into, was born in this time period. But why have I always been so attracted to the history and just everything about the 19th century? It's like I just can't get enough of it. And I still do that.
Wow.
I'm a history geek. Listen, next week I'm going to Ghost Country in very South Mississippi on the corner with Louisiana. So I'm real excited about that because there is a ton. It's known as a ghost town. I mean,
I have heard. It is really loaded. I have to
Oh.
tell you this because, see, I knew someone in chat. My buddy Russ says this is why I got confused about that quote. Jesus is the one that said John the Baptist was Elijah. So there it is. That's what it was. I'm like, I knew there's something with Jesus, but yeah, okay. So I just sorry, I had to interject that. My dad's from Georgia, and boy, superstitions, religious folks down there. How on earth do you function as being who you are, having the background that you do, and the books that you write? How have your friends and family and neighbors taken this in?
Well, now, and I know what you're thinking, and some of you are right, and you're thinking that, this is the South, this is the Bible Belt, this is not everybody does embrace that, but you would be surprised. Mm-hmm. You would be very surprised.
Minds are opening across the board and around the world, I'm finding.
Well, they are, that's for sure. But, even, look, you find all types of people, no matter where you go. So you do have to be careful who you share your crazy with. And I say that completely lovingly.
I tell people, don't let your crazy show too much.
but look, I can totally share my crazy with Heidi.
Yeah, of
course. On your
friends.
show. Exactly, because we are from the same tribe.
Of course.
When you're from the same tribe and you're with like-minded people and stuff. Just yesterday, I was speaking to a man who was a skeptic, and he was just, he says, so what were y'all doing last weekend? I said, we went to a house and investigated a home. We stayed at a haunted bed and breakfast. It was just absolutely amazing. Oh my God. And he, shouted, he had interjected a couple of obscenities that are always funny when you're talking to a skeptic. And I just said, seriously, it was a lot of fun. It really was. So did you get anything? I just don't believe all of that BS and blah, blah. And I said, you know what? I said, you don't have to. You absolutely do not have to believe any of it. But when you go to this, and I said, look, don't take my word for it. Do not take my word for anything that I'm telling you. I'm inviting you to do your own research and come to your own conclusions. That's what you should do anyway, if you have a curiosity about it. And I said, but I'm going to tell you this. If you want to come along on a ghost hunt or an investigation that I do, and I take another person with me who has become a very good friend of mine, and she is a very gifted clairvoyant. She and I don't use a lot of equipment. Sometimes we'll take some equipment, the spirit box that she has, and I'll take an EMF, detector and things like that are not cumbersome to travel with. And so we'll take those things and use that. But a lot of times we rely on our own abilities to walk into a room and pick up on the energy there, whether it's residual or whether it is an intelligent haunting. And I told him, I said, if you're going to come along on something like this, the only thing that I ask you to do is to leave everything that you've been taught your entire life behind. Leave it at the front door when you come in, because
and say your prayers.
Yeah, say your prayers. But I said, you know what you know because you've been taught that by people who their parents taught them.
Of course.
And I said, so you need to just come with an open mind, and then we'll do our thing, and then you decide,
Right.
And
what's one of the strangest things that you come across when you've done some of this stuff and research?
Well, I will tell you, last summer was the worst. Last summer was the scariest thing that I encountered when I actually had my firsthand experience with a shadow person. And I've heard of I've heard of shadow people, but this particular place is not, and I say infested. That word infested means when you think of a pest control, termites and things.
You could say colonized, like they moved in. How about that?
Oh, it's unreal. It is unreal. And I actually, that story, when I was doing that research, that story is in volume 2 of the Haunted series that came out last fall. But I had my first encounter with a shadow person, and the horrible thing is the owner of the property, they don't live there anymore, they moved, and it's vacant right now. But the owner of the property actually sent me some audio of a professional paranormal investigation that was done by TAPS of Alabama. And, oh my God, it's so disturbing. And then also sent me a couple of pictures of images that they caught. Now, I have never seen a real-life picture of a evil entity, its face.
Yeah.
Saw it.
No.
No doubt about it. Still have the picture. Could send it to you.
Uh-huh. I'd love to see it.
Oh yeah, can send it to you. But cool. you seriously, if you visited this place, it took me 3 days to get rid of that horrible, wretched feeling. And even it was such a sad, has a sad history at this place. There was a murder there, and then there was a horrible murder, and then a horrible suicide. Horrible.
Ugh.
Worst imaginable things that you can think of. So it already had a lot of negative energy attached to it to begin with. But the owner asked me if I take you back there and open the house and let you go in, will you go inside? I said, no, ma'am, I won't.
You're like,
no. And and just as nice as I could be, but I said, I don't, there's nothing else that I need to get from there in order to be convinced. I mean, I was convinced from the minute that I stepped out of my vehicle and stepped onto the grounds. I could see the woman that was looking at me outside the front window, the side light by the front door. Oh, yes. Huge, big eyes. And it was so scary because later, whenever, I told them what I saw, I mean, as we were typing, this is what authenticated what I was seeing, because we were both on Messenger at the same time. And she was typing to me, telling me what her son had witnessed while...
The Starlight Lounge presents An Evening with the Progressive Box.
I took a bit of a risk singing that song, but of course the one place I never take chances is the road, where Progressive Snapshot rewards your safe driving. A good driver plus Snapshot equals big discounts. And speaking of math, 1 + 1 = 2, little too late.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Snapshot not available in California, North Carolina, or from all agents.
They live there. Before I could finish my sentence and hit enter, she had typed the description of the woman that I had seen.
Wow.
Yeah. I was done. I have no desire to go back there at all. Listen, I burned so much sage, the house looked like it was on fire.
That's hilarious. Oh my God, but the knot. Oh my goodness.
Yes, it was something.
Not a fuzzy experience. Not a warm and fuzzy one. No. My goodness. So now you said that you have a white wolf that's haunting the land that you're on.
This is
what's
so
going on?
Cool. Have you ever moved to, I know that you've probably lived in different places, but each time that you go, do you kind of hope that there's no ghosts there?
I bless it before I move in so they leave me alone.
Sure you do. And so I'm thinking, as I have moved into this home and everything, I'm thinking, this is a new home. I have no knowledge of the land. Nobody, never heard a thing. I've lived in this area for years and years, and so I'm safe. So I move in and I start having this paranormal activity. I'm going, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. Not again.
Oh no.
Not again. So it was so cool. One morning around close to Thanksgiving, about 5 years ago, I walked outside and was going to check my mail. And as I walked outside, I saw a white wolf in the ditch in front of the house drinking water. No collar. There was it wasn't like a dog or someone's dog that had gotten loose or whatever. And, not one of those situations. And it had, I just literally froze after I walked out, and I started to baby talk it a little bit, because at first I thought, oh, how beautiful. Where did you come from? Oh, you're so pretty. And So I'm sitting here, and this animal keeps drinking, and it will not take its eyes off of me. And I'm going, okay. Well, all of a sudden, it's that feeling that washes over you to where you're totally freeze, and you realize that you're in trouble.
Right.
And I'm standing there staring at it, and I realize what I'm staring at. And I start to back up the sidewalk going into my front door and would not turn my back on it. Because I thought, oh, my God, if it is real, I'm going to be, it could attack me. So right. I get inside and I run to the computer real quickly, and I type in on Google, white wolf, to pull this up. There it was. I run back to the door because I'm thinking, that's a freaking white wolf. But where would that be coming from? Go back outside. It's disappeared. It is nowhere to be seen within seconds. And so fast forward about 3 weeks to a month later, I'm talking to some local historians, and they tell me about the story of the Chickasaw Indians. And right here on the land that I live on, this was a Native American village, not once, but twice, in the 1640s and then in the 1740s, 50s. And they were led to North Mississippi, supposedly from the west, traveled across, and there's this whole story. You can find this stuff. It's written in their books. It's just absolutely crazy. They were led by a white dog.
Come on now.
A white dog. Now, my neighbors, I'm going, how does this happen to me? What is it about me that wherever I move, I'm going to have crazy stuff happen? So then... and nobody will believe you. Like I said, right. Be careful who you share your crazy with.
It's just, I know those moments, those epiphanies of when things come together, and you're like, there is no way on God's green earth anybody's going to believe this happened.
Nobody. So I go down to my neighbor's house, they have a small horse farm that is just down the street from where I am, and it is... they have a lot of land and stuff, and they're all into the Native American history, and I am too. I've studied it all my life. And so I go down there and I start telling Rochelle, I said, I have got to talk to you. I have seen something and I don't know. And she just, her face just, she just goes pale white. And she says, well, do you not know about the story? And I said, well, I think that I've heard this story. She said, but there's other people that have seen that dog. And she said, so-and-so and so-and-so had seen that dog. And they had seen it about 4 years before I saw it on her property. Oh. So just really, really cool. And then, of course, when I talked to then I actually got a chance to talk to some of the Chickasaw leaders who were visiting here from Oklahoma. North Mississippi was their home. It was their headquarters, their nation. And anyway, when I've told them this story, they just smile and they just nod their head and they said, oh, yes, that's a wonderful sign. And, so I actually went to looking up this sign and doing a little research into it and its significance. And its message was, you are right where you're supposed to be for now in your life. And it's a wonderful omen of protection and guidance. And it was just a great feeling. And, and the neighbor that lives behind me, actually, when they were doing some excavation, building a lake, they unearthed skeletal remains. So we know that they had their huts positioned.
Unbelievable.
Oh, I know. My house could be on top of where somebody's hut was, for God's sakes.
You know what? Someone told me, I had a ghost hunter on here once, and I was talking about getting rid of ghosts, and the guy said something interesting to me. He's like, Heidi, people have died everywhere. Every place has a ghost. What are you going to do, just shove them over to the next lot? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I want to get rid of them so I can live in peace. It's like, I don't think they're paying the rent. I don't want them here. People are asking if your books are on Kindle in the chat room. They're available in all formats.
They are available in all formats.
Is there a
That's
new
correct.
book coming out soon? What's your next project? They're
Well,
also
what I'm working on right now is volume 3 of the Haunted series. And like I said, we were at a haunted B&B a week ago. Absolutely exceeded all expectations. That was the best time for ghost hunting. I have officially ordered a new cap to wear for any time I'm not ghost hunting, and that cap says, "I would rather be ghost hunting."
Oh, that's you're ridiculous. I love it. My kind of people. You know, I have been so, like, I was raised in a haunted house. I am just so, like, I have seen enough of them. Enough comes looking for me. I don't go looking for them generally. So it's like, bravo to you that you're fine with going out looking for them. I find it fascinating, but, you know, they are always going to rear their heads my way, and I just don't want to look at them. Ugh.
Well, you have to pick your ghosts the way you pick your friends.
I guess so.
So you cannot, you know, when you go into places, but I will tell you, Heidi, seriously, you know, when I go to places nowadays, the type of research that I do is not where I am set, like Zach Baggins with a Ghost Adventure. I mean, you know, I'm not doing.
You're not saying, "Come get me."
No, I'm not conjuring up spirits or doing anything like that. I'm not playing with Ouija boards. I have a book out called The Devil's Board that I published. That was a true story about a Ouija board happening that happened it happened in 1987, but it was released last fall. I don't do any of that type of stuff. A lot of what I do now is interviews, real simple assessments of the area. I'm looking for the history of the area, because a lot of times when you find out the history of a location, your mystery's solved. I mean, I'm going
and you probably want to move if it's your house.
Really. You know, I'm there to find out why it's haunted, not necessarily if it's haunted, because depending on, I mean, yes, there could be, you know, you always want to enter something. It's healthy to be a skeptic because not every place is haunted.
Right.
But at the same time, you and I both have been doing this for a long, long time. Yeah. We're not those people that needs that validation. Mm-hmm. I don't need to be convinced.
I feel that way too. It's like, I'm not here. Who am I to question if what you have observed to be real for yourself? I'm not that person to go and say and poo-poo you. I don't like when shows do that. You know, it's about taking a person's word for what it is they experience and seeing, okay, you know, is there a means or a reason for this going on? So I get what you mean.
Exactly. And I try to, you know, the only thing is when I have people who contact me and they want me to, you know, they've got something, you can tell just from what they're saying. They want, you're not going to be able to help. You're not going to be able to say, why don't you go to the light? You know, it's a great life. What they're dealing with is shadow people that we've talked about, something very sinister. They're dealing with an entity that has never walked the face of the earth in a human form. And those are things that are way beyond my capabilities of dealing with and not something that I want to deal with. And so I normally try to point them, you know, have you contacted your local minister? You know, there's certain things that you can do to cleanse the area and things. But I will tell you, I have dealt with a few people who were being choked at night.
Yeah.
And every time when I have counseled with some of those people, just within the realm that I can, not anything, you know, psychological counsel or anything, just when I have talked to them and listened to their situation, there's always things that are going on in their life that are causing them to attract this type of energy.
Oh, and these things seek them out, though, don't they?
Do. They do. And like a lady that I talked to just a few months back, it was horrible. She was being choked in the bed at night. She would wake up crying. It was scaring her to death. And I knew immediately, I mean, just within a few minutes of her telling me, and I said, so I asked her, you know, I just said, you're dealing with some things and tell me about that. And she did. She told me about buying a new business, and it was scary to her because they had sunk a lot of money into this and that kind of thing. And, you know, she wanted it to succeed. And, but anyway, you know, that's a big step. It's a huge investment, and for her and her husband. And I told her what to do, and I told her to, that it feeds off of her fear. And I told her to do some things to release some of that stress and some of her worry. And fast forward about 2 months, she's doing fine. Saw her just about 2 weeks ago. No more bad dreams, no more choking. It's all gone.
That's awesome. That's
but
wonderful.
I told her, I said, yeah, you know, it feeds off of that. You know, sometimes
I have thousands of emails, and these people are like, you know, I finally gave up, and I just succumbed like I was going to die. It was choking me to death. And the second they let go, this thing stops choking them. And I'm like, it's feeding off from that fear that you're pumping. Yeah. And but they hate the name of Jesus, I'll tell you that.
Right.
These things.
That's exactly right. And when they face the fear and they tell them, you have to stop. It's not okay for you. This is not your home. This is my home.
Thank you. Yes. Put your ethereal foot down, I say.
Yes. You have to do that. You have to be brave. You have to take control of it. You have to decide that, you know.
Yeah.
Time
is time.
That's right. And once they do that, it's good.
You know, I have got to tell you, we've come to the bottom of our show, and I have to thank you so much for coming on. L. Sydney Fisher, check out her books, magnificent looking books, and everybody's like, wow, they love you. All in the chat room, everybody's digging what you have to say. So I really want to thank you so much for coming on. This is a lot of fun. Well,
Thank you, Heidi.
Yeah, this is great. Well, you guys, remember you can catch me here every Friday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. You've been listening to me, Heidi Hollis, the Outlander. Remembering, always if it's weird, we're here. And stay tuned for UFO headline news coming right up after this that I also host. Good night, everybody.